WrestlingInc.com brings you Two-Faced Wrestling Talk, the podcast that goes beyond WWE and goes in depth on NJPW, AEW, ROH, PWG, and more. Also featuring fun pop culture and wrestling crossovers, listener Q&As, and extended discussions about wrestling topics past, present, and future. Now, here's your host, Kelsi.
Hi, and welcome to Two-Faced Wrestling Talk. We just got back not that long ago from Vegas. We're going to bring you all the first-hand news because we were there live in person at Double or Nothing and at Starrcast. It was a lot of fun. I'm joined with my co-host, Paul. I almost forgot to introduce you. Jeez, I'm Pete.
You know, they say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, some of my money happened to stay in Vegas.
Yeah.
Not that bad, though. We had a good time.
We did a great time. We were with our friend Anthony from Smart to Death and his awesome wife, Olivia. We had $2.50 beers, and they were good beers, too. It was awesome. That was like the highlight of the trip for me. We went to this awesome casino, found affordable beers.
Hey, I finally got to meet the owner of this site, this website.
Oh, yeah, and Raj.
so that was so we were part of that panel discussion that we had talked about that we'd be on, and make sure you check that out on Wrestling Inc. as well. So we were joined by all the people from Wrestling Inc. and we had a nice hour-long panel discussion on Friday? Yeah, Friday.
It was Friday.
It was Friday.
Yes. I thought it was Thursday for a second, but we weren't even in Vegas on
No,
Thursday. We were in New Orleans going to a Paul McCartney concert. So, crazy couple of days. We also got to see Glenn at that Wrestling Inc. panel, someone else I really like from Wrestling Inc. So, catch up on that. It's on the WINC, I believe, a few days ago. So, check that out if you want to see what we said. It's funny, we talked a lot about Jon Moxley, a.k.a. Dean Ambrose, and Suzuki. And who knows what we'll see in the future, because now we know Jon Moxley is going to be a part of Dominion.
Yeah.
So he's working with New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, we don't know what that's going to entail, and we'll talk some New Japan in the second block, along with a little bit of WWE and NXT. But this show is all, or mostly, about AEW.
Yeah, and Double or Nothing.
Yep, so let's get to it.
Okay, let's get right into it. And we should also tease that we've got some great interviews to play for you, not only this week, but the next 2 weeks as well after this week. We have this week for you Brandon Cutler and Christopher Daniels. Next week, it'll be our good friend, wrestling artist, so talented. He did our logo for our podcast, Eric Hodson. That's next week. And Jimmy Havoc as well next week. And then for our final interview on the third week, Colt Cabana, because it's the longest one.
Yeah, really long interview, and of course, you'll be posting those as well on your social media, so talk about your social media as well, and plus the new show you just had this week and what you got coming up.
You can find me on Twitter at SuperKickingIt, SuperKickingIt. I do a lot of polls on there. I do a lot of questions where I want to find out you guys' opinions on wrestling. And recently, I asked a lot of people, who do you think would win in a steel cage match, Bugs Bunny or Mickey Mouse? And to see the results of the poll, you should check out my latest live video. You could find it on my YouTube channel, Super Kicking It with Kelsi. That's spelled Kelsi. It's also on my Periscope. That's spelled Super Kicking It, just like my Twitter. Also, if you just go to my Twitter profile, you'll see a couple posts down the Periscope video on my profile. So all that, you'll find out who most people thought would win in a steel cage match and who I think would win in a steel cage match. And all the scenarios people made up, it was great. Someone asked me, who's the booker? And I said, well, the booker is someone who's a neutral entity, Scooby-Doo. He doesn't care who is booked to win. He just wants to make money so he could buy more Scooby snacks. It's all so ridiculous, and there's even more ridiculous scenarios in that video. So check it out, please. I think you guys will laugh.
But now it's time for news, opinions, and everything that is wrestling. It's time for headlines. And we're going to start and go heavy on AEW. Overall thoughts before we get into any of the specifics.
Overall thoughts, I really loved it. At first, I thought it started slower than usual. And I say than usual. Then the last big show that it was kind of AEW. It wasn't officially AEW, but All In. All In, I felt like from the beginning to the end was magical all the way throughout. Whereas I feel like Double or Nothing was really, really good. I enjoyed the, casino battle royal. but I feel like it did start a little bit slower. It's unfair to compare it to All In because it was the first time. I know a lot of people are saying, you can't compare. It's not fair. But overall, it was wonderful. Especially it ramped up the last 3 matches. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, you say about the comparison, and I said it on Spare Change right after. Unfairly, I was comparing it to All In, but All In also had Impact stars, Ring of Honor stars, and it was high energy throughout. This was not. There were times where there was definitely lulls in the crowd. I thought, to me, even as much as I love SoCal Uncensored, I wasn't even that invested until really Best Friends match, because not only were they great, but the guys they went against, who I didn't really know much about, Angelico or Angelico, I can't even remember how it was pronounced,
and Jack Evans,
and they were really good. They were interesting to watch. And then to me, then there was another little lull, but then towards the end, the last 3 matches were gold.
To me, the last 3 matches were like A++,
Absolutely.
all of them. And I knew the Bucks versus Lucha Brothers would be amazing, because if you guys didn't catch our episode last week, I'm really proud of it, because we went in depth on 3 Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers matches, and they're all from PWG. Now, one of the matches was a triple tag team match.
Right.
It wasn't just the Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks, but 2 out of the 3 were. And we talked about all 3. And I'm really proud of how we broke it down, and we went really, really hardcore with our analysis of it. And so please check that out if you missed it, because I think you'll really like the differences. You'll hear us describe those matches, and to me, those were completely different than the one we saw at Double or Nothing. I really thought they would have some callbacks, but there really wasn't many callbacks to those sets of matches.
The only thing for me, as far as Double or Nothing, is we have not had a chance to watch the broadcast yet.
Yes.
We haven't found a loophole to not pay $60 after we just paid $200 for the actual show. So we haven't had that TV experience of it yet. So what we're going to discuss is going to be similar to how we felt right afterwards. Because again, we don't have the benefit of what the broadcast was like. We've heard what people have said about the broadcast itself and whatnot, but
I really wish we did have that comparison, because I love giving you guys 2 sides of the coin, like the being there live and the seeing it, because I would love to give my 2 cents about JR's commentary. That's the thing I'm interested in the most. I've actually heard decent things about him and great things about Excalibur, which is really, that's what I really care most about, that people loved Excalibur. And, before you all go on and saying like, oh yeah, he's great, I told you he'd be great, I told you, people were like, who do you want to do commentary for AEW? First thing I said was, Excalibur, and it came true. So, and I told you guys he'd rule, and he does rule, so I'm very proud of him, very happy.
Well, let's get into it, and let's start with that Casino Battle Royal, which, again, right off the bat, I was comparing it to the Battle Royal from All In, which I actually enjoyed more, but you actually liked this Battle Royal quite a bit.
I loved it, and I don't know why you're so down on it. It had so many people we loved in it. Like, I guess you don't like them as much as me. I know you don't like Joey Janela as much.
I like Joey Janela.
I know, but not as much as me.
I
love Joey Janela.
Part of it was I was kind of distracted. I was getting in to the building late because I had to run a little side errand because somebody decided they needed to bring their backpack.
You told me to bring the book bag. You're like, we could check it.
So I had to find somewhere in the hotel to check it. So, that's a perfect example. I'd like to see that on TV, because my opinion of it is kind of skewed, because by the time I got, food and settled into the seat, it was like already into the match. So.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, it was kind of a lot more hectic for you.
So you have a better perspective of that match.
Jimmy Havoc, seeing him, I was like, Havoc. And we interviewed him, like I mentioned earlier. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. We talked about his arse. But much more. You'll find out why next week. It's so ridiculous.
It's not what you think, that's for sure.
No.
Or it might be. I don't
know. I don't know. It has to do with matches.
No, we don't need to go any farther than it's about his arse.
Okay. And I only said it that way because he said it that way.
Yes.
It sounds more PG when you say it with an R, so
yeah,
whatever.
Exactly.
It's okay, we're still PG. I said it with an R. So it had him in it. It had, of course, Hangman Page. We all suspected he might be the last guy to enter in, and he was. Now, a lot of people are not speculating, they're kind of saying that they would have enjoyed Ty Dillinger, Sean Spears, they would have enjoyed his entry more had it been a surprise. That they kind of missed out on it being
I agree.
a bigger deal because they announced it ahead of time and they shouldn't have. Yeah. I agree with that too because it was fun seeing him. It was fun chanting 10, but it wasn't what it could have been if it was a surprise. I think he would have made a bigger impact had it been a surprise. And MJF, you're the hugest MJF fan right now.
I love MJF.
And he shined. His heel work was great in that Casino Battle Royal. So to me, because of all those people I love, I thought it was a great Battle Royal.
Yeah, MJF is quickly becoming one of my favorites because he's such an a-hole.
I know you're
like his promo later when they revealed the championship belt, and he said to Bret Hart, which by the way, a huge surprise, Bret Hart being there.
People went crazy. They were so happy to see him show off the belt.
But MJF comes out with the mic and says to Bret Hart, "Watch out, Bret! There's a fan." I thought that I laughed so hard.
That was so terrible, but great heel work.
But the Casino Royale, MJF kind of played the sneaky role. Thought he was going to pull one over when Page thought he had won, and he tried to eliminate him, but he ends up still getting eliminated. Adam Page was the winner of that, but really the big winner was Brandon Cutler being in that Battle Royal.
Yeah, I really love Brandon Cutler. He's really just kind of like an underdog that's really come up and shined lately. If you guys have been watching Being the Elite, he was on a recent episode, and you and I watched it together actually. You see Matt and Nick offer him an AEW contract, and it's legit tears that come out of Brandon Cutler. He's just so happy and relieved. And we had the pleasure of catching up with Cutler at Starrcast the day after Double or Nothing. So the day after he was a part of the Battle Royal. And also, he's really good friends with the Bucks. We talked about his experience at Double or Nothing, his experience signing with AEW, and we talked about my favorite Young Bucks match that he was a part of in PWG. So we're going to play that for you now. Hope you enjoy it. I'm here with Brandon Cutler. I feel like it's the wrestling Cinderella story. Everyone's rooting for you after that last Being the Elite. Talk about the whirlwind of emotions you must be feeling, joining AEW, having that moment last night at Double or Nothing, and Matt and Nick are your friends, so seeing all this unfold, how do you feel?
Just overwhelmed is how I can imagine everyone's feeling after that night, with how many surprises were through that show. But for me specifically, just so much appreciation for the stuff I've been given and how I can support my family and stuff now. That's what washed over me in that moment, in that video on Being the Elite, is just the security of knowing like my family's going to be taken care of now. And then after that was like the appreciation of everything I've been working on with them, and like how they've seen it. It hasn't been overlooked, and that's one thing with these guys is they take note of everyone, how hard they are working and everything that they do. Whether you think it's unnoticed or not, like they notice. Like they've done that from top to bottom, all the way from the ring crew to the top stars. They've taken care of everybody, and they know like, oh, I'm gonna get that guy because he's always done this for us, or he's gone the extra mile for us when we're in this company. Let's bring him to our company. And so I was telling some of the people even in my meet and greet today, it feels like this is kind of like the NBA All-Stars game. Is we've picked all the best people in their positions. Again, from ring crew to refs to wrestlers to any position you can think of, like they handpicked everybody that they wanted. It wasn't just like who's available or who they can get. It was like, I want that guy. I'll figure out a way to get him. Like they did that for Rick Knox for Excalibur. Excalibur has a great job, and they said, we want him. What is it going to take for him to announce for us? Let's do whatever it takes to get him on our team, and they're doing it.
They really are, and you mentioned two big names to me, because I'm a big PWG fan. You mentioned Excalibur and Rick Knox. PWG, stalwarts. I love them so much. A lot of people don't know, you performed a lot for PWG back in the day, part of the Cutler brothers. A lot of people ask me all the time, because I'm a big Young Bucks fan, they say, what's your favorite Young Bucks match? I always say the same answer. Cutler Brothers versus Young Bucks versus El Generico and Paul London. That is an underrated match. It's a gem. It's a beautiful, high energy, fast-paced match. Can you tell me about that match, what went into it, and how do you think of it now?
Yeah, I went back when I got back into wrestling in January of 2018. I went back and looked at that match because that is one of our most at least for the Cutler brothers, that's one of our highly rated matches. And it holds up till today. Like, it's a great match. I remember being in that match that it was originally going to be a guerrilla warfare between just us and the Bucks, and that was already just amazing because at the time I think they'd only done maybe 2 or 3 guerrilla warfare matches before us, and we were going to be the first tag team guerrilla warfare match, so that was like a high honor to have. And then that kind of like a month before or so, they said like, oh, we're going to add in also Paul London and El Generico. And at that moment, I've been wanting to wrestle both of those guys for so long, and still to this day, I love Paul London in and out of the ring. The guy's just such a gem himself. To have a match with them in with those stipulations on it in a guerrilla warfare, first ever tag guerrilla warfare, on top of it being in the ring with the Bucks, our best friends. It was one of those like beyond dream matches is kind of a term I'm starting to come on. Is there's things that are beyond dreams. There's dream matches and then there's beyond dreams where it's something that you couldn't have even fathomed was something you wanted. Just like AEW, I've been saying this week, it's a beyond dream job, where a dream job would have been working something with the Bucks in like the same company and making enough money to support my family. A beyond dream job is they own the company and they hired me in the way they did and stuff like that, where it surpasses any dreams you could have even fathomed yourself.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. I totally can see that for sure. Some of my favorite parts of that PWG match was the pops on the table, and Matt went through the table, and then the actual rake used in the match. Right. So many intense moments in that match. Definitely a classic. People should check it out if they haven't seen it, because it's truly one of my favorites, and you were a big part of that.
Yeah, that was great. I remember that we tossed Paul London and El Generico into like the bar, behind the bar, and both of their feet hit the wood above that. It was just funny how they both went over the same way. Another one that was great was that how we tossed Nick over. We both military pressed Nick over into them in the huge audience. That was a great, memorable moment too. So many. How we teased that we were gonna tombstone them on the chairs and stuff. Yeah, great callbacks, and it's great to see that kind of stuff too. Of how even at that when we retired, that Matt and Nick saw the great potential in our tandem tombstone, and then they took it the next level, and it's now known as the Meltzer driver. Because like I would have never been able to do that front flip like Nick does, so it's like that was destiny that they took it and they young bucked it. They made it way better than it could have ever been, kind of a thing.
They young bucked it. I think that should be an official term.
Could be.
It really could be. And I think I loved your first answer. You were talking about they do see the little things people do, and I saw it too. Other people might not have seen it, but you did a lot of work with the Bucks. If you look back at Starrcast last year, we did our podcast there. You were in the background helping with the merch table, helping Dana, and not only that, your wife helped design their gear, make their gear. So just talk about working with the Bucks, and they obviously really have appreciated that.
Yeah, that was the thing I was kind of reflecting back on the other day of what I did with them with Starrcast. Yeah, I helped them with a lot of like just how much they sign on stuff like that. They sign like hundreds of things before they even go out to Starrcast. So just helping them like move the products with that, and then helping with their merch. Again, this year at Starrcast, they're using my car to use a lot of to haul this stuff back from Starrcast to the MGM to make sure they have enough merch to sell. And then just during the show, I keep saying last year like it's a full year ago, but at All In, I helped them. They passed that off. That Hot Topic wanted to do the Twitter takeover, and they were going to be so busy during the show that they're like, Brandon, do you want to do this for us? Do you want to like handle Hot Topic's Twitter during the show? And I was like, all right, I'll step in and do that, on top of like, being in the Battle Royal also on there. There's a couple of other things. And then that my wife made so many people's gear, trying to get that gear to them that day and whatnot. They saw it and they appreciated it, and so they had that just checked in their bank until they had another show, and just being the Elite, helping them. Just when they're in town, I'd help them film that or shoot that or give them ideas for like what they could do on that. And they were banking all of this that whole time, so that when they started their company, they knew, oh, well, we have Brandon on the team. Like, he's been helping us with like a lot of content even before now. It's not like I jumped I jumped ship of like, oh, you guys got AEW, can I get a contract? Like, they've seen I've been helping them without ever asking for anything, just to help them because they're my friends. Like when I heard about All In, I told them, oh, I'll help you guys in any regard you need. And that was it. It wasn't like, oh, if you guys want me to to get hired or to do anything. I was like, if you guys need me to help set the ring up or to set chairs out, I'll do that. Like just to be there and support you guys. And so they see it of that I'm not the only one. They're doing that stuff too. There's a lot of guys that go out of their way to help them. And not expect anything in return. And I've seen it because we're doing it again this weekend with Starrcast. Everyone's going nuts to help each other. And I see it as we're a family. It's not like we're a team and we're coworkers. It's no, we're a family that the Bucks pulled us together, kind of a thing. We're like a built family, and we all feel that way with each other.
So yeah, they saw it. They saw what you did. I see what you have done, and I think people are starting to see as a whole what you have done. And it's just such a feel-good story to see you succeed, to see you get this spotlight. I saw you in the ring last night. It really just looked like you took a moment when you first came into the ring to take it all in. Just talk about that feeling there, just absorbing what it was like to be there.
Yeah, I definitely did. This morning I was looking back at that and being what was I doing? You're on pay-per-view, be there, be a wrestler, I should have posed or something. And somebody that was talking with me pointed out, no, that was beautiful. It wouldn't have felt for your story, you should be taking it and you should have that moment. It worked. And I was like, that's true. And Cody and Jericho both gave speeches to the everyone. And made sure to point out, guys, take this in. There's only one time we're doing this for the first time. Make sure you appreciate it. And so that person brought it back to me of okay, you're right. I shouldn't regret that I took it in. And there's no way to ever completely take it in because I keep telling everybody, I could have had a half-hour entrance and I wouldn't have been able to take it in. That ramp wasn't long enough, in my opinion. I could have walked down that thing forever. But yeah, it is nice to reflect back on it and be I took it in honestly the best I could, and I still am thinking back on all those different chants I was getting, and it's so surreal to think about. I'm those were for me, and it's nuts.
Well, I, for one, am glad you took it, and it was beautiful imagery, and it was really moving just to see you react like that. And I, for one, am rooting for you, and I really just appreciate your time with us today. Thank you so much, Brandon.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So great stuff from Brandon Cutler there, and best of luck to him. Really, those are the kind of stories you love to hear. He's just so appreciative that his family's going to be taken care of, and you may have something down the road about his family and his wife in particular.
His wife is supremely talented. If you guys don't know who she is, she's actually the person who makes and designs a lot of the Young Bucks gear. And she designed a lot of other people's gear too. Of course, she designed Cutler's gear. It was awesome to see Cutler wearing his wife's gear, sitting in the ring, taking it all in. And you heard him talk about it and talking about how he wasn't sure if he should be taking it in, but I'm glad he realized that was the right thing to do because it was a magical moment, and as an audience member, I noticed it right away. I snapped a picture of him taking it in, and I actually tweeted it out, and he liked it. I think it's kind of neat to see a wrestler seem so emotional and that you can tell the wrestling and the moment's important to them. It makes, as an audience member, it more important and feel even better for me too, watching that unfold. So it was all really cool. He's wearing his wife's gear that she made. It's neat. She also designed, actually, Frankie Kazarian's outfit, who is based on Evel Knievel, the outfit he was wearing. Now, it wasn't white, but he basically had her model it after Evel Knievel, just changed the color scheme to black.
Because obviously in Las Vegas, Evel Knievel had that legendary jump over the fountains. And so perfect for Kazarian to request that look.
Yeah, it made perfect sense for Double or Nothing being in Vegas, and we'll talk about the Bucks later, but you actually almost thought the Bucks costume was Evel Knievel. It did look like that a little bit, but it was Elvis. He told us, Cutler told us his wife kind of thought of this Elvis design, and they actually had thought about this when they were still back in Ring of Honor. Mm-hmm. When Ring of Honor went to Vegas, they wanted them to have these costumes, but they didn't have enough time to make them. So when Double or Nothing was announced to be in Vegas, they're like, how about we do this gear now? And they all agreed, and she made them, and hopefully I can get an interview with her, because she seems so awesome.
Also on the pre-show, we got to see our guy Sammy Guevara, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's got extraordinary talent, and he plays the a-hole pretty well too.
He's so good at being a jerk.
Yeah.
A lot like MJF. Like, he's not as direct about being a jerk as MJF, but he still is pretty bad.
I'm seeing a trend for guys I'm really liking right now. MJF, Guevara. Later in the show, we'll be talking about El Phantasmo, who I think is also an a-hole. So
is it because it takes one to know one?
Yeah, exactly. It's because I'm an a-hole.
Misery loves company.
Exactly. Hey, no, I agree. I completely agree.
Just kidding. That's my weird joke and laugh or something. I don't know what that was.
But yeah, I've seen some reviews and people didn't like that match that much. I thought Sammy was really entertaining, and maybe they weren't as excited about Kip. I don't know, but I thought that was a decent match.
That was weird that it didn't get good ratings. And you know what I love? This is a gear thing again. I just love noticing the wrestler's gear. He had a really cool panda headgear piece on. It was cool. It was really, really neat. You know it's weird that we were looking at CBS Sports to see what they said about it. That's who gave it a C+. I'm really surprised.
Yeah. I was surprised.
I believe it was a C+ was their grade.
Yep, I thought that was a surprise. So we kind of talked about it. Then the show kind of gets underway, and SCU against the Strong Hearts. And I thought this was a decent match, but there wasn't, again, that level of excitement compared to All In and SCU's match there, where the crowd was super into it. Here, not as much. So that part, I was kind of surprised that the crowd wasn't as crazy for them because they're ridiculously popular.
Yeah, they are. And it really did seem subdued. I don't know why that was. At first, I've got a video. It does sound loud on the video when everyone says SCU. Yeah. There's people who had cut out letters. You were actually saying you loved that there were no signs there, but there were letters cut out for SCU.
But for the most part, unlike a WWE show where you always have somebody in your way with a sign, at least with the AEW, hopefully it stays that way because there were no signs. But SCU, Strong Hearts I'm looking forward to seeing more of. And I got a chance at Starrcast to talk to Christopher Daniels about the first night of official AEW action. And the other thing I really enjoyed in this conversation was talking to him about how he's reinvented himself and what his favorite personal match and favorite match as a fan is of all time. Let's start with the most immediate thing. Double or Nothing last night.
Yes.
Did it meet and exceed your expectations?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I knew it was going to be great. I knew the energy was going to be off the charts. We walked down the aisle, first thing out of the box, and tore it up. And the entire show was phenomenal. Nothing but positive feedback from the fans, and that's just the first one of many more to come.
Well, along those lines, the TV deal now, are you blown away at how quickly things have taken off and now you guys are at this point already?
I'm not blown away. No, I knew it was going to get like this. I knew that the energy was going to be there for it. Yeah, come on in, doctor. I knew the interest was there. I knew the energy was there. Everything that the Young Bucks and Kenny and Cody have been doing in the last couple of years has been on fire. And then once we started talking about doing this, we knew that the interest was going to be there for some sort of television deal, and TNT stepped up, and in a couple months we're going to be doing it TNT. So yeah, we're all 100% set.
You've been a part of so many promotions over the years and had so many epic matches. How long do you want to keep doing this?
I'm going to keep doing it until I can't. I've always said that. As long as I'm having fun and able to do it at a level that I can be proud of, I'm going to keep doing it. And now that I'm working with Frankie and Sky as a trio, I feel like we've added years to our career. We've reinvented ourselves. We've made ourselves fresh. We've made ourselves interesting again. And, the fans last night, they let me know that SCU is popular and ready to go, and it's just been a great experience this whole weekend.
Talk about reinventing yourself. You've done it so many times throughout your career. What does it take to kind of change gears and do different things? Be a fan favorite, be a heel. You've done it all.
It takes confidence in yourself, knowing that if you decide to stray from your comfort zone, you can find something different. And I've never been afraid to walk away from an idea that I had and move to something different. It's easy to stay and keep doing the same thing over and over and over, but all you do then is you become stale, you become trite, and we never wanted to do that. So Frankie and I, when we got together as Bad Influence, then we transitioned into the Addiction, and now we added Sky, now we're SCU. All of these things have been different for a reason. We wanted to fill a niche, we wanted to fill a spot in a certain position, and now SCU, one of the most popular parts of all Elite Wrestling.
I'm going to put you on the spot for the final question. Your favorite match of all time?
Steamboat Savage, certainly my favorite. Oh, you meant of mine.
But that's a good answer too. Steamboat Savage is a good answer.
I think the one everybody always mentions has always been me and Joe and AJ from Unbreakable. But I have to also say winning the ROH World Championship from Adam Cole stands out to me as well. One of the best wrestlers in the world, certainly a big highlight of my career. And Ladder War with Young Bucks and Motor City Machine Guns a couple years ago also stands out as something that I think people still watch and still holds up and still appreciate.
Those would be my 3 favorites of yours as well. Awesome. So that works out. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks, guys.
Great info from Christopher Daniels. Loved hearing his thoughts about changing and always adapting to kind of fit a new mold type of thing. And the funny thing is, you said it in the interview, his 3 matches that he named that were his favorite are also my favorite. Now, I'll say that the Adam Cole match isn't a favorite match of mine, but the promo leading into that match that Christopher Daniels had is like my favorite promo that he's ever done, and in my top 5 favorite promos ever.
Well, and the moment of him winning that belt finally after. So the match probably isn't as memorable as what happened before and after, but it was such a great storyline.
It was a wonderful storyline, and another match that he referenced really kind of led into that storyline, in my opinion. He referenced All-Star Extravaganza 8, and that, of course, was Ladder War 6 that he was a part of. It was him and Kazarian. Of course, before they were a part of SCU, they were known as The Addiction. And if you guys are not familiar, because I actually saw some tweets saying that they weren't familiar with some SCU matches and for recommendations, well, really, SCU doesn't have that long of a history. The 3 of them are fairly new working together. Now, they do have some great Ring of Honor stuff, but if you want to go back a little bit further, definitely check out, of course, Daniels and Kazarian working together as The Addiction. And the cool thing is, they actually even had a comic book that they had a lot of issues of. Lots of cool things about Kaz and Daniels together, including this match I referenced, the Ladder War 6. It was the Bucks versus The Addiction versus Motor City Machine Guns. Wonderful match. And in that match, Daniels is all bloodied up, messed up, and the crowd, he was working as like a heel, but the crowd totally turned and basically gained a lot of respect for him from that match because he put his body through so much in that match. Just crazy spots left and right. The Ladder was like another participant in the match. The way the video package leading into the match, the way they lit the ladder, it was like it was a person in the match. Like it was a foreboding thing. It was great. And like I said, the imagery from that was really Daniels covered in blood. And I think that's probably why he mentions it as one of his favorites. And I got to mention it as a favorite. And I think you guys should check it out if you're not already familiar with it because it's a grade A match.
But his favorite, and the one he says people talk to him a lot about, is my favorite of his with Samoa and AJ. Just unbelievable match.
I mean, you really can't get much better than that. It still holds up, like, however many years later. Right. It's so much older. Back when TNA was TNA, not Impact.
Yeah, and that was, I didn't watch a lot of TNA, and I've said that on the podcast, but that was a match I remember watching thinking, these guys are awesome. And, at that point, with WWE being the main thing, I was like, boy, I would love to see these guys in WWE at some point. And 2 of the 3 are now.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
And one's leading the charge in AEW, so all good.
Yeah, so that's another match people should check out if they haven't already seen it. And the promo, again, leading up to the Adam Cole match, where literally Daniels cries. He talks about how he needs the championship. He needs to win. And it's just such a desperation type of thing. And beautiful emotion from him. It was awesome that you got to talk to him.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So let's fast forward now and get to what I thought were the best 3 matches. There were some other moments that were good. Like I said, Best Friends was fun to see. There was, a couple of mistakes in the show, a couple botches in that match, the wrong bell going off in the 6-woman tag match. But once we got to the big 3 matches, they were fantastic.
They really were. Like I said earlier, they were all A matches for sure. I'd give them all really high ratings if I was giving, quote, stars or something. I would give them quite a lot of stars, almost like the most you can give. Let's start with, Cody versus Dustin. All the emotion was there. The story was laid out, perfectly done. And of course, we knew one of them or both of them. I thought maybe both of them would bleed, but it only happened to be Dustin. And boy, was it good with just one of them, because he bled enough for the 2 of them.
Yeah, that was a gusher. But right off the bat, let's start with Cody coming to the ring. And, they've kind of set the stage on this, that he was going to destroy the Attitude Era kind of thing. And that's what Dustin and Gold Dust represented. And so he comes down, and there's a chair on the stage, and it's clearly got what looks like Triple H's logo. And he goes and grabs a sledgehammer and takes it to the chair. Thought that was a great imagery. I think they missed the opportunity, though, in that he should have taken the sledgehammer to the logo of the chair itself, and maybe had some pyro where the thing blew up or something too.
Yeah.
But I think taking it to the back of the chair would have been even more symbolic, because then he would have taken out the logo.
Yeah, that kind of would have been even better. But I kind of like what they did with it. And I liked Brandy standing behind him being like, yeah, dude, do it. It was really cool. And it's kind of funny, they're a wrestling power couple, and the whole kind of represent they're kind of alluding to how they're taking down the other wrestling power couple.
Right.
Not just Triple H, but Triple H and Stephanie.
Yep.
So it was Cody and Brandy. So it was 2 against 2 almost,
Yep.
in a metaphorical sense.
And the other early impression right off the bat was how phenomenal Dustin looked. 50 years old, and he
said it at the weigh-in.
Yeah,
He'd been working out the hardest he's ever worked in his life.
Yeah, well, it showed, because you think of like his last match as Gold Dust, whatever it was. I don't even know if it was a significant match as Gold Dust, but what he looked like then to what he looked like on Saturday night was incredible.
It really was. He definitely put in the work, and all the in-ring stuff was great, but I think the thing that took it over the top, the thing that really made it as great as it was what happened at the end, where Cody choked up, basically asking Dustin to be his partner for the future show coming up in Jacksonville. He asked him to be with him when he fights, against, who was it, the Bucks?
Against the Young Bucks, yeah. No, and look, I'm glad that was something that they saved. I mean, I'm sure it was going to happen regardless, but I think if they had announced that beforehand and Dustin was a dud in the ring, it would not have carried as much excitement. But Dustin looked so good, and the crowd was so into some of those false finishes. I think I was really impressed at what Dustin did. I thought it was a tremendous match, and then the Cody emotion after was fantastic because it was genuine. Like you said, as he got to the last word where he said, "I need my brother," he's getting caught up. So I thought that was awesome.
And the pointing to the sky, saying "Dusty, Dad," that was really powerful. I even had some tears, in my eyes. I wasn't crying, but I had, watery eyes. I thought that was really moving, and I think everyone in there felt that. And what's cool is I really didn't think that Cody could pull it off before they announced who he was facing. I was like, he's not going to have... How could he possibly have a big match like he did it All In?
Right.
That match had so much story in it, so much emotion, and they made Dusty a part of that match too, in a way, because of how much the NWA meant to Dusty and how big of a part he was to that company, and how historic the whole thing was. But also how Cody wanted to paint his own name for himself. So I really thought to myself, there's no way he can beat the Nick Aldis story.
Right.
But it did. It really did match it and almost exceeded because it was family.
Yeah.
And it was real. It really felt real. You really can't go wrong when you've got a great story you're trying to sell and you're selling it naturally. When something comes off natural in wrestling, I feel like that's some of the best stuff you can ever get.
And I got to admit, going into this match, I didn't really have super high expectations for it. In fact, I was comparing it to the Nick Aldis match. Like, how is it even going to live up to the Nick Aldis? Cody match, and it totally did for me.
I think it exceeded it because there's this blade spot in the original All-In Nick Aldis Cody match that I really don't like. There's a point where Cody is underneath the table for a ridiculous amount of time at All-In. You know what he's doing. He's blading, and he's blading ridiculously to where it took way too long. This match, I didn't feel like there was any weird moments where something was going on too long where Dustin was blading, and it was taking too long. It wasn't like that. It all felt natural and flowed. So in ring, I actually liked it, I think, a little better.
Next match was Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks, and going into this show, this was the match for me. Look, I've said it, the Lucha Brothers are my favorite tag team right now, I think.
Yeah.
And
we had a rivalry going.
Sort of, yeah. But I knew this match was going to deliver, and you referenced our PWG Rewind, and there was some choreographed nonsense in one of those matches that I really hated. This match did not have any of that phony looking stuff. It felt like a great match.
You know what's cool is the Young Bucks actually have tweeted out some people that they purposely put in moves to kind of pay homage to. One of the people, El Generico, of course. That's Sami Zayn. I think that's really cool. They did a brain buster off the top, really neat. Onto the turnbuckle. They did a move specifically for the Motor City Machine Guns,
right,
who we just referenced a few minutes ago when we were talking about the Addiction versus Motor City Machine Guns versus the Bucks. Bucks have great respect for MCMG because they really paved the way for great tag team wrestling. They really kind of revolutionized some things in tag team wrestling, and people forget about them as a really big part, cornerstone of tag team wrestling, especially in the non-WWE scene in the later years.
Yeah. So,
I actually want to mention, this is kind of a funny story. So when we see the Bucks come out, of course I told you guys what their costumes are based on Elvis, and that really was awesome. I loved their gear a lot. And when they came out with the awesome gear, literally dollar bills, but you could call them Young Bucks
right,
fell from the sky. We were kind of far back to where they weren't falling near us, so I wasn't trying to scramble and get any. There weren't any around. Some security guy comes up and he's got a handful of them. He starts giving them out to the first row. We're in the second row, and all these people are getting. I'm like, me, and then all the people getting it. I yell, and this is a joke. I wasn't really serious completely. Wasn't really trying to tell them to give up their bucks, but I was like, this is ridiculous. I bet you every one of these people rooted for the Golden Lovers when the Golden Lovers and the Young Bucks faced each other at Strong Style Evolved. If they rooted for the Golden Lovers, there's no way they deserve these Young Bucks bucks. It should be me. It should be me. Two people gave me their Young Bucks bucks. One of them said, yeah, I rooted for the Golden Lovers. Do you want my bill? I was like, yes, thank you. But it really was just all in good fun, poking fun at people.
I wish the Young Bucks were throwing some of their elaborate wealth around.
Yeah, I know. Some real bucks.
Yeah.
Some real Young Bucks bucks.
Then I'd be fighting for it, but a cheap little piece of paper.
Well, two things. One, they actually did more bang for your buck, which I have not seen in forever. So they pulled out that move, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. Usually you just see a Meltzer driver, and that's it. Now they did, of course, do the Meltzer driver. That's how they won. And I knew they would win right then when they hit it. But, yeah, more bang for your buck. I like how they kind of introduced it, because I'm sure there's a lot of new fans watching, and I think that's a great visual move. I'm glad they pulled it back out.
I was surprised, and I think a lot of people were. I think a lot of people thought the Lucha Brothers were going to win this match. And I even joked after, because Cody had won and the Young Bucks had won. I'm like, all right, apparently AEW is just going to be the owners putting themselves over.
Oh, whatever.
But I have seen now that the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers are going to have a rematch back in Mexico. That makes more sense for the Lucha Brothers to win the titles back in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean, because if you remember the clip we saw of them winning it the first time, the crowd was dead. Right. So I think the crowd seeing the Lucha Brothers win it back will pop and will be really excited. So I think this is the right way to do it when it plays out finally. But my second comment about the Young Bucks match, my final comment as well, is just that it really exceeded my expectations, because I had high hopes going in. They were really showcasing themselves to, I think, a new audience, and I think knowing that, they had a lot of hard-hitting stuff, not just comedy, and not just high-flying either. In fact, the comedy was very little. There was hardly any in their match at all.
That's why I really liked it.
Yeah, I know. But I like when they do comedy too, but I know that what they were trying to do, they're trying to show themselves as some of the best tag team wrestlers. In fact, the best tag team, two sets of the best tag teams ever. So they wanted to show that, and I think they accomplished that goal. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. I guess that would have to be my favorite match.
Yeah, probably me too. But I think you could throw any of the last 3 matches in a hat, and I could make an argument for any of them. So let's get to that last match. Kenny Omega versus Jericho. We had seen it back at Wrestle Kingdom, and it was a great match, and this one was just as good, I thought.
I think it was just as good, and I think it was really different. I was worried going in because every New Japan match that Jericho had was a really fast-paced, hard-hitting, gimmicky match. Like, basically, it was super hardcore matches. If you remember the Naito match, he throws a tripod onto him,
right.
All kind of brutality. I thought that maybe Jericho was going that direction to where he wasn't really having the more traditional matches anymore. And it was working for him in New Japan, the style he was wrestling. But this match with Kenny at Double or Nothing, I feel like was the most wrestling I've seen Chris Jericho do in a long time. And I'm talking about like wrestling, like actual wrestling. I thought he looked great. He had said he'd been in the gym working out, kind of doing some MMA type stuff at Dave Bautista's gym that Dave Bautista owns. And the training shows. He looked great. The only thing I didn't like is his new finisher, the Judas effect, which is like a back-spinning elbow. I think it doesn't really look impactful. I think it could look a little, like, harder. I like the idea of it, but I think, you know, I don't know. I hope they can kind of, like, make it look more intense. But overall, I think he looked great. Mm-hmm. He really looked like the best he's looked in a long time in terms of wrestling quality. And he slimmed up, too. He looked really good.
It was a brutal battle. I thought it was funny. The AEW apparently is going to have a different kind of table than WWE or New Japan has. The table that they brought out and that Kenny eventually did the stomp on, which always makes us nervous.
That's my number one thing I hate. Because I get scared. He's going to break his ankle.
Well, and
he's going to break his ankle.
The way he landed, I was more worried he was going to hurt Jericho because he didn't really land on the center of the table, and so I thought Jericho could get hurt. But it was a brutal match, and, you know, look, Kenny gets his nose broken in the match.
Bleeding everywhere.
One thing should mention, neither of us overly big fans of Kenny's new music.
Oh, I forgot about that. Thanks for remembering. Yeah, I really hate it. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably based on some video game. You guys can school me on that. I'm not really a big video game person. I love movies and TVs. If it was some kind of nod to a TV show theme song, I would know. But I just think his old New Japan song, Devil's Sky, is like so iconic and ridiculously well known and goes with him so well. It's so hard to wrap my mind around another song. And they were obviously trying to go the complete opposite direction. They're like, well, I guess if we can't use that song, let's just do something totally different. To me, it didn't work. I didn't like it. I didn't feel it. When he came in, I was like, oh no. It didn't even go with the bang gunshot thing. Nope. I was bummed out.
So then we come to post-match. And the big surprise that everybody's talking about, although it wasn't a huge surprise, it was speculated, but the way it was executed with Jon Moxley showing up, I thought was great.
I thought it was perfectly done. The roof blew off the place. Yep. People were going nuts. You and I are so mad. He walked right in front of us, Moxley, right there. We thought we pressed record. This is so weird. We both did this separately.
Yeah.
We thought we pressed record on our phones to get a video, and I didn't press it. Yeah, it wasn't recording.
I think I double punched it or something.
I don't know what I did, but I thought it was going, and then I look and there's no numbers going. And I'm like, what the hell? He just walked perfectly. I had the greatest shot. It sucks.
But the crowd reaction when he came in was perfect because he came in sort of Shield style, actually, coming down through the crowd. And I could see we were on the side he came down, and I could see everybody on the other side stand up and start pointing. And I'm like, all right, something's happening to our right here.
They turned off the lights, though, didn't they? They flashed the lights off.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they did.
Maybe. I don't remember.
See, this is why we wish we could have rewatched the broadcast.
But regardless, I turned to my right, and I'm like, oh, it's Moxley. And ironically, our friends, Anthony and Olivia, had a funny story because Anthony had gone up and he had gone up that exact aisle or an aisle near it, and they were staging Moxley to come down, and he came sprinting back to his seat to tell his wife Olivia that Moxley was coming. So.
Yeah, he was so excited. He was like, I was marking out. I was like, I would have too. And so, because I asked him, like, did that ruin it for you? He's like, no, I was just excited seeing it. And one of my favorite parts about Moxley coming out was when he stood on the casino chips. The funny thing is, who told you that was, like, a very WWE thing?
I've seen it a couple places that people thought that felt WWE-ish.
I never thought that once. It was so weird.
I get it, but you've got those chips there. It just makes sense that he would stand there. I don't know. I don't think it's a homage or a ripoff or anything at WWE. It just seems like what they should have done.
It looked effing cool,
Right.
man. It looked so awesome. Visually, it was extremely pleasing. It was framed, like the camera framing was perfect. You could see like the Double or Nothing logo behind him on top of the chips. It was so perfectly done. And a lot of well planned out stuff happened, and he just seemed to have so much energy and reinvigoration. And the cool thing is, of course, this week after Double or Nothing, Jericho released his new episode of Talk is Jericho with Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, talking about leaving WWE, how it felt to be there. And I'm not going to say too much about it because everybody's heard it at this point. Everybody's talked about it. If you haven't heard it, you should go listen to it now. It's really entertaining and it's really eye-opening, really. I say entertaining because it gives you an idea of what it's like right now in WWE, and you can almost imagine how many people must be frustrated. It's sad to think, but I'm sure there's other people who are creatively stifled and feeling very annoyed backstage. Sasha Banks comes to mind right away, and it sucks to be in an atmosphere like that where you're controlled. Like Vince, trying to get him to say what he wants to say, thinking that it's cool, but it's really not. So Vince really not in tune of what is kind of a good thing to say and what isn't. I really think the key thing you should take away from that interview, and that I took away, is Dean Ambrose using the word shackled. Shackled is a powerful word. You're trapped. You're chained up. You're not unable to do anything. You're unable to move. You're unable to be creative.
You're lacking freedom.
Exactly. So to me, it's like, he even talked about how he would get sick on Mondays. He would get like physically, like he started feeling a little ill because he just didn't want to go through everything. But to give him credit, a lot of people were like, oh, CM Punk, he complained. Now Moxley's doing the same thing and no one's complaining about Moxley complaining. But it's totally different. CM Punk left before his contract was up. I'm not saying CM Punk didn't have any good reason to leave.
Right.
He had great reasons. But Moxley stayed out his whole contract. And he said in the interview he always tried to give what he was assigned. If he couldn't get it changed, he tried to do it to the best of his ability. He always gave his best. And I think you could see that in his WWE stuff. I truly do. If you look back, you don't see a slacker. You don't see somebody going half-heartedly through what they're doing. He really always did seem to give it his all. But yeah, I recommend that podcast episode very highly.
I don't know, you're kind of countering yourself. Didn't you feel like Dean Ambrose sometimes was lazy at times?
In the ring,
Yeah.
not in his promos,
Oh, okay.
ever. I always thought he was a great promo. I always thought he was a great character.
Right.
I actually stopped kind of liking him because of his in-ring. And I think he was, in fact, he said he was working hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure he was.
He was working real hard.
Because he was a guy that never took any time off.
They said they had these stats one time. I can't remember where I saw this. I think he was one of the longest people to wrestle without taking any kind of a break or vacation. So he was on like some of the longest stretches of shows out of anybody in like a multi-year period of time. So that tells you he was working hurt for like years.
Yep.
Like years. He didn't take any time. So yeah, he probably went backwards in the ring because he was like really in pain, really hurting. So I really never have had any hate towards Ambrose. Just I kind of was like, I'm over it for a little while in ring. That's all. I always liked his character.
Well, we're not done talking about Jon Moxley. When we go ahead in our next segment in New Japan, we will talk about him. But any final thoughts?
I've got a couple of final thoughts, miscellaneous stuff, but then I also want to make sure we play for you guys the speech that happened after the show went off the air. So we're gonna end with that, but first, before we do, a few miscellaneous things. So the Best Friends video was ridiculous and extremely weird. If you guys saw it, it's like ghosts, it's aliens, it's guys holding hands and people holding hands. It's not just guys, it's like guys and girls, a whole bunch of group of people, two guys holding hands too, puppies. The only thing I think that could have made it better was floating Bill Murray heads. Because if you guys have ever seen Trent's gear, he's got like a Bill Murray face on his knee pad. And if I ever interview him, that'll be the number one question I ask. The first thing, I love Bill Murray. You love Bill Murray. It's in your Twitter bio. It says Bill Murray is a cool dude or a cool guy or something like that. So the first thing I would ask is, I like Bill Murray. You like Bill Murray? Why? What's your favorite movie? Tell me more about Bill Murray. Why is he on your gear? And hopefully I'd get that answer one day. Maybe. But yeah, Flying Bill Murray heads is the only thing that can make that video the best video package of all time. But also, he tweeted out, him and Chucky T were tweeting about how the conversation came about Cody showed him what they were working on for the video package, and they were like, any suggestions? And I think it was, I can't remember if it was Chucky T or Trent, but one of them said, can you add some aliens and like some flying ghosts and stuff? And they did. They flippin' did. So that's kind of random, but that's how the entrance came to be. Another thing is the tag team that interrupted the Best Friends match at the end. Lots of people didn't know who they were. It was silent in the building, which is a shame. But it turns out I actually recognized who they were after a second of thinking and remembering, like, who are they again? I knew they looked familiar. It was the Super Smash Brothers, and I was right. That's who they were. Of course, they had a whole bunch of like guys behind them. I don't know who those guys were, but the two main guys, Super Smash Brothers, they had great matches against the Young Bucks back in the day in PWG many, many years ago. But they also recently had a more recent match with the Young Bucks at Ring of Honor last year at one of their house shows, which is available on Honor Club. You can go back and watch that. Just Google Super Smash Brothers versus Bucks Ring of Honor 2018. It'll pop right up. Something that was great from that match is they did a lot of old school stuff that they hadn't done in years. Like the Bucks were doing back rakes. They hadn't done that in years. But they did it as an ode to their old matches with the Super Smash Brothers. Check that out. I think you guys will enjoy it. And I think you will be hyped about Super Smash Brothers in general. Also, with the Bret Hart segment, MJF saying the line, he was making fun of Adam Page for liking horses and like having his logo be horses. He called him Seabiscuit. Yeah. So, want me to get you another sugar cube? There's some great heel work there, and those are some of the last remaining little comments I have. Anything you want to say?
Nope. Just interested to see where AEW goes with their show in Jacksonville as they build towards being a full-fledged TV show, and see how they develop some of the other guys. Not just the top end guys, because the last three matches can't always be loaded with your 6 best or 8 best people. So we'll see how they develop some other people.
Before we throw to the closing comments, are you encouraged by what you saw for the future?
I thought the production was good. I mean, again, I got to see the TV broadcast, but from what I saw, I am encouraged.
And of course, we totally skipped over the women's match. I thought that was good too. What I was really, really happy to see was Britt Baker get the "You Just Pop" before, of course, Awesome Kong was introduced. But Britt really got a way bigger pop than I thought. So people are obviously more familiar with her after last year, her being a part of All In and everything. And I was really happy to see her get such a great reception because I like her. She might be my favorite. I know a lot of people really love Kylie Rae too. She's great too, but I love Britt.
And that was a great match, highly rated as well.
Yep. So here we go. Here's the closing comments from Kenny Omega and company.
I'm so proud of everyone, and I should be mad, and mad for losing, but Moxley. I'm not going to thank you, Chris. I'm going to thank you, Moxley, because tonight. This is kind of clever, right? Because we're in Vegas. You just raised the stakes. Did you guys have a good time tonight? We said the word revolution, but there is a more appropriate term. This right here is a family. This right here is for everybody who was told they couldn't, who was told they are less than. None of us are. Mediocrity loves company, and that is not us. This is all elite wrestling. You are all elite wrestling. Let me ask you where we go next. Whether it be Chicago, Jacksonville, all around the world, will And I give you my word, Matt, Nick, Hangman, Brandy, Dana, Kenny, we will never, ever, ever let you down. But we gotta end this thing correctly. Sorry, Kenny, broken nose and all. You have to tell them goodnight. Hold up. But guys, you've been loud all night. I need you to get as loud as you've ever been in your life.
We really put our pride on the line to try something new. All of us. All of us, not just us in AEW, but I'm sure everyone in the crowd. We put up with some form of ridicule every day, not feeling good enough, or not feeling like we've lived up to our potential or going on the right path. But today, I almost cried 3 or 4 times because I'm so proud of everyone. I'm so happy that each and every one of you are willing to take the chance to come on this very unique journey with us. And even though I should be seeking medical attention, I should. Cody put me on the spot, and so I guess, oh boy, I guess I must bid you adieu. Las Vegas, and heck, around the world now. Goodbye, smooch, and good night.
Our Two-Faced Wrestling Talk logo was inspired by Two-Face, the Batman animated series character, and his coin. The logo was designed by the talented and creative artist Eric Hudson. Eric creates wrestling-themed pieces as well as other pop culture art. He is also currently working on a Roddy Piper comic book. You can follow him on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Dreaded Dinosaur. You can also support his work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/dreadeddinosaur. Please check out his work.
And now back to Two-Face Wrestling Talk.
So towards the end of that first block, we talked about Jon Moxley making his appearance at AEW, but he wasn't done making news this week as we switched to New Japan, and before we get to Best of Super Juniors, I guess we're looking down the road to Dominion, because guess what? Jon Moxley's going to be there.
Yeah, I'm pretty darn excited because if he does more than just this match at Dominion, think of the matchup possibilities. I mean, him versus Suzuki, him with Suzuki, yes please, him versus Phantasmo, Ishii, anybody, like literally anybody, Ospreay, I mean heck.
Dean Ambrose in Suzuki-gun would be great.
I know.
I believe
Zack Sabre Jr.?
I said it on the podcast a long time ago, I'm pretty sure, when we were talking about matches that we'd love to see, and I think I said we'd have to go back and search to confirm this, and we're not going to go that deep into it, but I'm pretty sure I said Dean Ambrose and Suzuki would make a great match because Dean Ambrose seems like he could be crazy by his character, and Suzuki is crazy.
It was a question we were asked, something about, like, if you could have two wrestlers wrestle from different promotions, who would it be? And you said that. So that was a great answer. I think you really did. Like, I remember you saying that. I think you really did say it.
Yeah.
So the possibilities are endless, and I really hope he sticks around. But what does this mean for AEW and New Japan? What does this mean for their relationship? Is there a working thing going here? Because you also have Jericho coming in and having a match against Okada. And, of course, Jericho has a contract with AEW, although I've heard on his podcast him say, in my contract, I can't work anywhere else, but it does say I can work in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, why is that? I mean, he obviously insisted. Why does Moxley have the same thing? Is it just because they're big enough stars to basically demand still being able to work there because there's people there that they really want to work with? Or is this a bigger company thing they're trying to kind of almost have a good possible, or like keep things good between them and New Japan so that maybe one day they can have a relationship? Maybe that's what they're trying to do, which would be a recipe for disaster for Ring of Honor.
Well, it goes back to my theory about Kenny Omega never having a formal goodbye in Japan.
Yeah.
Makes me think at some point, and maybe AEW is opening the door a little bit to something, that Kenny Omega may wrestle there again at some point too.
It would be cool. I'd love that. Don't get me wrong. I'd love that. There's a lot of people that I'd love to go back and forth, but I'd be really scared for Ring of Honor if that were to happen.
Yep.
Really scared.
I would be too. It would be not good, I don't think. So, as we're recording this podcast, we are caught up on Best of Super Juniors through night 11. So there was one more B block, and then one more A block, and one more B block, and then they will go to the finals on Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, wherever you are.
So how many shows left is that we haven't watched?
There will be a total of 4 shows before our next podcast.
And
that includes the finals.
That includes the finals. So 4 more shows that we'll be watching, and then those 4 shows we'll cover next week.
But good job of us catching up after we got back from AEW.
Somehow.
Trying to watch some of the Best of Super Juniors. A block, to no one's surprise, is going to come down to Shingo and Ishimori. There didn't seem like there was going to be much doubt that Shingo was going to go in there probably undefeated. But I'll tell you what, even the Shingo matches that you thought, he's definitely going to win, they planted some doubt with Kanemaru, the way he held up the chair to block the whiskey spray.
Another funny blocking of the whiskey spray is when Skrull faced him and used his umbrella to block it. Very reminiscent of the Shingo blocking it with a chair. So liked both of those blocks.
Yep. But Shingo, against Marty Skrull, Brody King gets involved. They hit him with the umbrella. So there were elements where you thought Shingo could possibly lose, but you're going to end up with Shingo versus Ishimori to determine who goes to the finals. Of course, Ishimori was in the finals last year.
What a great visual when he held up Skrull's umbrella and was like, oh, and then broke it over his knee. That was like a really powerful image right there, being like, screw you, man, and screw your umbrella, too.
But a lot of the great matches have really been in the B block, to no one's surprise, because Will Ospreay's in the B block, so thus all of his matches are great. The match against Phantasmo, which, excuse me, you only saw bits and pieces of, but his other matches against Robbie or against Bandito, you love that match.
Yeah.
In fact, I've watched it twice.
Oh yeah. That's a wonderful match. I really loved it. And can Ospreay even have a bad match? I mean, the man's incredible. Him versus Bandito blew my socks off, and him versus Phantasmo, I loved. I thought that was so well done. Phantasmo's like a grade A heel. He's insanely incredible. Really takes being a heel to the next level. I mean, I think he's better than MJF. I think he's better than kind of like some of the top heels out there. He's almost so heelish that he could work perfectly with Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. But I think it's really great because, he's along the lines of Jay White, but I think he's even more heelish than Jay White with some of the stuff he's been doing lately. So I really loved Phantasmo versus Ospreay. I thought it was even better than their first match.
Yeah, it was great. And then Phantasmo versus Rocky. After Phantasmo, or actually before he picked up a loss against Yo, he loses to Rocky, and what was a match that was dripping with emotion, and the crowd was so behind Rocky.
Honestly, so far in the tournament, that's my favorite match because I was really invested. I'm usually really invested in Ospreay matches, but this Rocky match got me because, they just painted the story perfectly on commentary about how much this meant to Rocky. It was his first time in a long time main eventing, and it was his first time ever in that building main eventing in a singles match, so the importance was laid out right there on commentary, and you knew as the audience, wow, this is a big deal right now, and you could just feel it in the room that everyone wanted him to win. The crowd was really loud, especially for a Japanese crowd, which really made it even better watching from home. When you hear a Japanese crowd that invested and that loud, you know they're into it, and it makes you even more into it watching at home. And it was just a feel-good moment that he ended up winning. I loved every moment of it. There was parts where I was screaming, being like, come on, Rocky, come on. So I gotta say, because of how invested I was, that was my number one match so far.
And you mentioned the crowd. 3 straight nights they were at Corrigan Hall, and they talked about how it was sold out and as loud as it's ever been in New Japan. And it really came across on TV. I even mentioned it before they had mentioned that on the broadcast of, wow, these crowds are really into it. Like, they were really into Bandito at one point. They were cheering for him.
Robbie Eagles they were really into.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I did love in the Phantasmo Rocky match when Phantasmo yelled forever, like he was going to do the forever clothesline. But, of course, Rocky was tied up upside down, and he stepped on Rocky's jewels.
Yeah. Did he say forever when he did
Oh,
that?
yeah.
He goes forever. Yeah, I couldn't remember. That was great too. I want to backtrack a second. I just mentioned Robbie Eagles. Another person I really, really love lately. Loved his match against Will Ospreay. I like how they're making him appear like the reluctant heel. Like, he's a heel, but he's really not anything like Phantasmo. Like, he doesn't want to go too far. He feels weird going too far, and you could see that hesitance. I love that. I think it's a very kind of gray character, really multi-dimensional, multifaceted, well done. Love what Eagles is doing and how he's portraying his character.
And his match against Ospreay was fantastic.
That's probably my second favorite, that and maybe a Phantasmo match against Ospreay.
They did a really good job of putting historic perspective on that match, talking about how Ospreay helped to get Eagles to New Japan, yet Eagles really didn't want to shake hands with him and all that. So playing the heel, but, you know, when Phantasmo got involved, he wasn't happy about that.
Right. He actually had like a really bothered look at the end of the match when he's walking out with Phantasmo. Can't wait to see what unfolds as this goes on and on, because obviously this could turn into a main storyline if like they're kind of clashing heads and if Eagles doesn't really want to stay a prominent heel.
The other thing I really want to talk about New Japan is the first week of shows, it was Caprice, who was fantastic. This last round of shows, Juice Robinson was so good on commentary and so funny. So
we wrote down his lines because they were just wonderful.
Yeah,
he must have mentioned not wonderful bungholes like 10 times. That was insane.
Let's see if I can find all of his. Let's see some of his quotes here. I during the Bushi-Doki match, I hate Bushi, and I don't know who Doki is from a ham sandwich.
But he said Dookie, which was even worse, that he said it like Dookie.
In talking about Gresham, he said he's like ZSJ, that little bastard.
Yeah.
Later, Will Ospreay, he said, did a move called the Whistling Bunghole.
He said that, like I said, 1,000 times. It felt like he said bunghole.
He referred to Bushi's costume as Native American business casual luchador. When he was talking about Ospreay, he said, Ospreay pisses you off as a wrestler because you wonder why can't I do that? I thought that was another great line. Did I miss one?
I wrote one on the side there.
Oh, I wouldn't have even seen that one.
Early in the match, changing the light bulbs, when he elevated him really high up in the air. He's like, he's changing the light bulbs. Oh, yeah. And I was like, what does he mean by that? Like, he's going really high up? And you're like, yep. I thought that was a cool analogy, a cool comparison.
During the Phantasmo Rocky match, Red Shoes gets knocked out, and Juice says, Red Shoes is taking a GD nap.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
And then in the Ospreay-Eagles match, he changed what Ospreay's move was called and called it the Flying Taint Smasher.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that was ridiculous.
Juice was tremendous on analysis, and I miss that he's going away. Gino is good, but not nearly as good as Juice and Caprice, I don't think.
I would listen to Juice on commentary any day. He really added to it for me, personally.
And I liked the touch. Now, as we were catching up on New Japan, we already knew about the Moxley video being Moxley. Yeah. But on the New Japan shows, they were playing it, and they kept saying, you know, this is a threat to Juice, and Juice was like, quit showing this. I don't know what this is. I don't like this.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of good work by him selling that too, and you know, that's going to be interesting too, Moxley versus Juice.
Yeah, I really can't wait, because a lot of people hate on Juice. Juice is a B+ player. No! I love Juice, and I think he's an A+ commentator. I don't think he's a B+ anything. I don't think he's a B+ wrestler, but he's certainly not a B+ commentator. Wow. He's awesome, and I can't wait to see him. Like, I think he'll probably be really amped up to face Moxley / Ambrose, especially because, like, the history, like, they both were in NXT at one point and everything. I just think it'll be really neat, and I'm sure they'll make a story out of it.
Well, speaking of NXT, we'll switch gears and talk a little WWE and NXT. This weekend, NXT TakeOver 25. Really a celebration to some of the great pay-per-views they've had. But they're going to take a rewind on the biggest match, Gargano versus Adam Cole. That's going to be the main event. I know you're not the hugest Adam Cole fan, but we saw that TakeOver 2 out of 3 Falls match in Brooklyn, and that was a lot of fun.
It was a great match, and let me kind of clarify, I'm not the biggest Adam Cole wrestling fan. I'm a really big fan of the Adam Cole like character and the Adam Cole promo. Anything he does with talking, he's gold. I've always been lukewarm about his wrestling, though, and I don't know why that is. I really don't. But having said that, he brought it against Johnny Gargano at that TakeOver match we were at in New Jersey.
The women's match...
or New York, or wherever that was.
Brooklyn, yeah.
Whatever, I can't even remember where we were.
The women's championship, Io Shirai against Shayna Baszler. I think that's going to be a great match. Again, Shayna brings it every time.
I love Shayna. She's like... I've said it, and I'm sorry if you're a longtime listener. I know I say it a lot. Out of all of WWE, she might be the best heel. Like, maybe even out of all the guys, too. I think she's really top-tier heel. Just... so real, so natural. Like, you don't think that she's putting on a show. You think she's really that scary in real life. That's what I think, at least.
There's also a 4-way tag match for the vacant title that the War Machine War Raiders, Viking Experience Viking Raiders had to vacate.
That's so silly that they vacated it.
Well, I don't understand why they just didn't have a final match there, especially if they're going to get promoted and not be on TV ever. But that's another soapbox topic. Your boy, Matt Riddle.
Yay! bro.
He'll be on the show. I know you're excited about that.
I'm always excited to see Matt Riddle. He's in my top 10, but it's really hard to make a top 10 list of wrestlers right now. There's so many great wrestlers, but he's definitely in there.
So, and I'm sure there'll be some surprises with it being the 25th TakeOver. I think it'll probably be a fun show on Saturday night. Not much to talk about from WWE. A lot of what they're doing is setting up matches for Super Showdown, which I'm not even sure how excited I am, despite the fact that they're claiming it's going to be a WWE or a WrestleMania caliber show. Ridiculous. But Baron Corbin won a fatal 4-way in that, so he's going to face Seth Rollins. But really, one of the standout things is Brock Lesnar showing all this personality with the briefcase box.
I actually really like it because it's such a great change from him like doing or saying nothing, showing no personality, look like he doesn't want to be there. A lot of people are saying he's going over the top, but I kind of like it. It's something.
Yeah,
What's it called? The Brock box or
Brock box? I think.
Yeah, like a beatbox, yep. Brock box. I actually like it, and I love all like the stupid memes and stuff. People are like putting different music to his head bob. It's wonderful.
I thought the best match on TV this week was probably Cesaro and Ricochet. Mm-hmm. That's what WWE needs to emphasize more if they're going to compete with AEW as far as eyeballs for actual matches. You've got to let your talent like Cesaro and Ricochet actually wrestle. Speaking of AEW, that's probably the biggest news on WWE TV this week.
Why, oh why, did they have Sami Zayn say the words AEW? I don't know, if they thought that would be a good idea, like they're trying to make fun of the product, but really they didn't say anything. They just said, you could ask me about AEW. And all it did was make people search for AEW and bring more eyes to finding out what AEW is. It's stupid.
Well,
I don't usually get that harsh about my, criticisms of WWE, but it's stupid. It really is stupid.
It was dumb, but it's funny. That comment and a couple others were really the only thing that saved that segment. It was the whole having fans ask questions it was all just very uncomfortable. Sami Zayn really actually did a good job kind of saving the segment by threatening to attack the one fan, and then he brings up AEW. Otherwise, I thought that segment was kind of a disaster.
Yeah, I don't know what they're trying to do. And a lot of people I saw on Twitter saying, like, this is, like, their answer. Like, you had a great show over the weekend by another company, and, like, you don't change anything up.
No, I mean...
And, in fact, you mentioned the company that had the great show. It's just all very strange. It's very odd.
Yeah, I mean, you come off AEW putting on this product where the focus was the wrestling, and then WWE follows it up this week, and I've got 3 matches written down as good matches over the course of the week. The Ricochet match, the Kofi Kevin Owens rematch, and the Fatal 4-Way was decent, but that's it. In 5 hours of television, 3 matches stood out to me.
Yes, 3 matches, but how many stories?
Yeah.
Any?
Nah.
Nothing?
I mean, more of Dolph Ziggler, I guess.
How many promos stood out?
I don't know.
See, that, like, yes, they have a great roster. They've got the talent for great matches. They barely even utilize that. They're not utilizing, like, storytelling at all, or promo. And that's what we heard in the Jon Moxley interview. And it's like, they've got to amp that up, because one of the benefits of AEW, and I'm not going to be always pro AEW and bashing WWE. When WWE does stuff right, I give them props. But what they're not doing right now... What they're not doing right now is they're not utilizing storytelling. It's like basic. You can make a good story. You've got 3 hours for Raw and 2 hours for SmackDown. You can make something of note. But literally, you can't think of anything good right now. I asked you, you're like, no, I don't know. AEW has that creative freedom. So they've got a big competition in that. They could say and do whatever they want. The wrestlers are kind of reinvigorated because they can kind of make their own promos. So to me, you've got to have your writing staff, if you insist on writers writing what the wrestlers say, you got to have them working really, really hard to try to come up with some compelling things for wrestlers to say.
Well, WWE's got AEW's got a couple of shows before they go full on TV. WWE's got time to try and fix this, but they better do it soon, and they better start realizing that they're going to lose eyeballs if people can see the AEW product and see the focus on wrestling and decent storytelling as opposed to a bunch of goofy stuff.
Yeah, I think just cut out like some of the goofy stuff, but again, it's Vince's sense of humor that seems to be guiding these segments of comedy and things. So I don't know. WWE can improve, and they've got little pockets of improvement here and there sometimes. We go through stretches where they're really bad, but then there's a little stretch of goodness. However, it's been few and far between lately, so I'm hoping to see another good stretch soon.
Well,
or else.
They can't have it where their only good wrestling matches are at pay-per-views, because AEW is not just going to have the good matches on pay-per-view. Their weekly television is probably going to be 75% good matches.
Yeah.
So that's the thing WWE is going to have to wake up to. And look, there's different audiences. There are people that like the goofy stuff, but the ratings clearly show that things are going in the wrong direction on WWE television, and the competition from AEW, competition does raise all boats in harbor, or whatever that expression is. So we'll see what happens in the months to come.
Yep.
But that's going to do it for us this week. Again, we want to promote that next week we will have interviews with our artist Eric Hodson and Jimmy Havoc, and in 2 weeks we will have an extended interview with Colt Cabana. Next week we'll be talking Best of Super Juniors finals and looking ahead to Dominion. We'll talk about NXT TakeOver 25 and lots of other discussion, I'm sure, coming down the pike as well. And of course, you've got your shows again. One in the can from this past week and one next week.
One next week will be more of like a listener type of kind of driven show. It'll be questions that you guys give me. I also posed out a question on my social media. I said, if you could be any cartoon character, past or present, who would you be and why? And I'm going to read you guys' answers, and then I'll answer questions that you give me. Not just cartoon, anything like pop culture, movies, TV, wrestling, stuff about me, whatever. So send in your questions and also answer my question. Go to my Twitter at SuperKickingIt to find all that. SuperKickingIt. And stay tuned to us at TwoFacePod, TWOFACEDPOD, for all the excited stuff coming up in the future. But that does it for our show right now. That's all the time we have. We appreciate you guys spending your time with us. We know it's valuable. We really appreciate it. But that's all we have for today. That's it. That's the finish.